Good morning. Today's bonus is a discussion with Eruth and myself on Stereo app. It is longer than what I'm providing to you today, but if you would like the full show, go on Stereo and listen to it in its entirety. It's about the many perspectives when it comes to this abortion thing, not just abortion by itself, because it cannot be talked about one-sided. This is just a bonus. It's not the full episode. This is actually Ruth's show that she invited me to, and because we are close and we've gotten to know each other through discussions, we talked about this, and we have had episodes in the past where we talked about abortion in like a 2-part episode, I think last year. If you are subscribed on Red Circle to most of my old episodes exclusively, you can listen to it. But for the most part, I hope you guys enjoy this discussion, the show, the messages, and the clips. Be open-minded and check out this week's episode. Did I say episode? I said episode. Use them lips, girl. Use them lips. Episode. Gotcha. Check out the episode.
What's going? I know I haven't seen you posting
in my house now.
Your plant babies.
Yes, there's lots of babies in here. And what's so crazy is I used to hate my mom having plants in the house as a kid, and now look at me. Look at me.
Well, I'm sure you. I mean, I don't know. Like I'm terrible at. I've never been able to have a successful plant in my house, although I love them. So I know when you have one, you're like, oh my gosh, you're growing. You're nice and green. You haven't died. Like my sister, she grows stuff too. My stepmom, my stepsister, my stepmom, they all grow plants too. My mother-in-law grows plants too. So she has plants everywhere in her house. It's such a nice feeling. It just feels really good to be in that atmosphere.
They help you. They help you have better air. It's a natural smell that's in your house, better than plugging in stuff, lighting candles, these toxic candles that's connected to women not being able to reproduce. Even companies like Bath and Body Works, who tell you that the chemicals in there do mess with women's reproduction. And a lot of people don't care. They just want what they want. But I'm just into having clean spaces, healthy spaces. I changed my air filter in the AC. That's something you should do at the start of each season. Change your air filter. And I just want my home to not just look like peace, but also be peace.
Yes, I'm with it. Well, I'm building. I don't know, the last update that I think I had for you, we were still trying to find a place, and we went through the struggle. We were definitely going through the struggle. Like, I'm gonna tell everybody, like, everybody knows the price of rent is outrageous. So if you locked into your place, you're golden. I hope that everybody's getting some prosperity so they can still manage the ridiculous amount of rates. Like, I'm in Florida now, so Florida has like the highest rent rate in the nation. And I did not know that when I was getting ready to move down here. And so we went down here to buy, but when we went to go buy the house, they didn't have materials. They stopped building. By the time we was staying here, we didn't spend the little bit of savings that we had because we were living off of what we were trying to use as our down payment. And so, long story short, we ended up staying with my sister for a couple of months, and then we ended up moving away from there. We were trying to get into a place, but I didn't know that my old landlord put down that I didn't pay one of my last month to leave the place. And I'm like, where is this bill coming from? I disputed it. I'm like, I'm not paying that. This is not happening. They were like, no, it happened. So long story short, that was what was holding us back for so long, like trying to apply. I'm like, what is it that's in this report that's saying that I can't rent? And so we stayed in hotels for like a good 4 months. It was rocky. It was a rocky road. But I will say this is that my kids did really well under those circumstances when we were back and forth.
That's what I was worried about. I'm just like, ooh, one room?
Yes, they did. I mean, exceptionally well. I mean, everybody was like, okay, I'm on this side, I'm dressing. I'm on this side, I'm dressing. Like, that,
Wow.
and they talked to each other. It was no like fighting. There was no like complaining. Nobody was like, "Mommy, when? Mommy, when?" Every now and then they're like, "Mommy, when we get the house?" I'm like, we're working on it. Kevin's out working really hard, so that kind of put a pause. That all of that put a pause on us just coming on stereo and having these discussions and stuff like that. So now we finally got into a place. We moved in April, middle of April, and we're just slowly building up. So, next step is to just get the things that we absolutely need. I saw what's the truck? What's that rental place people be buying their stuff from? One of them, rent to own, one of them rent to old places.
Um,
I can't remember the name of it now. But anyway, there's some rent to own truck I saw in the neighborhood. I'm like, you know what? I am so glad I did not go that route.
mm-hmm.
I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting it out. When I have the cash to pay for the couch, I will pay for the couch with the couch. I'm not getting no more debt.
Rent a center. Like
Rent a center,
Rent a
yes.
Center marks their stuff up at least 300%. And they purposely target, they love families who are income based to the point where one payment and they back and they got money in the back.
Yes.
My ex was a manager for one in Mississippi, and they paid him very well. But it's a very dangerous job to the point where when you need to come get the stuff because they're not making their payments and people pulling out guns on you to get off their property, like, is it worth it? No. But Nicole, we do see your message. I'm gonna play her message real quick.
Yeah.
So am I. I'm in Florida. What part of Florida?
I'm in Port St. Lucie. The place that's supposed to be cheaper. It's sort of. It's just not like Miami. Miami's out. I mean, it's out. I never plan on moving to Miami anyway. But what were you? And thank you so much for asking, Nicole.
Yeah, but it's just a lot, and I feel like people who are wealthier have a plan for Florida to be like a place of amazement where you browse through and watch everybody else that can afford to live there be there.
Yes,
and
it's like
I feel
that.
like that's their goal. Like that's older people's retirement place, and they want to basically make it unable to be lived in by middle class people, and you have to be like the upper of the up to live there. Same thing like California. California is a hot version of New York, more expensive. Things are far more distant. The transit is not as well as New York, but at the same time, there's a lot of people like one check away from poverty.
Yes. And people that make, and people, let me just clarify this. And let me just stop and say thank you all for joining. Thank you, Miss Smitty. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Eva, for joining. It's people who make money, like me, like Kevin and I. We do pretty good for what we make, but for what we bring in. But the cost of everything is exorbitant. Like it's almost like when I think about what I was paying.
It turns your pay into pennies.
Yes. We were basically paying like $4,000 to $5,000 almost for the month of just living in hotels.
Woo!
Like that was that was like the rent. That was like my rent for it was crazy. And I'm just like, so nobody's gonna ask any questions. Like all these people are talking about, how outrageous the Disney is and all this stuff with all the don't say gay thing that's going on in Florida. Nobody's concerned about doing something about this inflation, about these inflated gas prices, inflated rent. Like some of the stuff they're just doing because they can. And it's so much. But let's go and get into it. I appreciate you for joining. Shan was gracious enough to come because she has another talk coming up too. So, the goal of this conversation is to really have us all present whatever type of opinions or perspectives we have on this topic. We all know what happened with the leakage of the opinion from the Supreme Court on abortion. And, Shannon and I, we had 2 talks about this before. I don't remember what month it was, but it was really very transparent. We had a couple of women that came in and talked about their abortion stories. We were both pretty transparent about where our positions were, but also sensitive to the fact that it's not an easy decision, while also still holding our beliefs on abortion. So just to set the tone first, I want to just be able to share that there's like rules of engagement for everybody in terms of leaving comments is
Yeah.
And that is, rules of engagement is like tone and energy, right? Try to be compassionate, understanding as you're leaving messages. Tell the truth. It's try to be aware of being unbiased, but also be honest, be yourself. If you have a position on something, state it. We're not here to judge. We want everybody to have an honest conversation. Try to be intentional and transparent and open-minded, and try to do it while expressing humility. So listening to each other. The last couple of days on stereo, I came on, girl. It's been wild. It's been a wild, wild, wild ride. Like I was literally having to somebody said Mercury retrograde, which I never knew what that really was, but I was like, oh, this is what that's like. It was crazy. So I'm trying to do my best in at least trying to
Girl,
set
I
that
still
tone.
don't know what that is, and I really feel like it's just an excuse for people to bullshit.
It probably is. It's been a lot of that on these streets as of late. And then of course I'm holding myself accountable, which is if there's messages, I'm going to take notes so that I can make sure I'm responding to keep the conversation flowing. But we'll play the messages as they come. And I see there's one in the chamber there. So we're going to pop that while it's there. And then I'll go back into some more.
What's up, Eruth and Chan? What I've realized is a lot of the terms we even use to describe wealth are outdated because of inflation. Like back in the day, the word millionaire meant something. It still means a little something now, but it doesn't mean what it meant to win $1 million. It's a fraction of what it used to be. Like when people say, oh, I'm a 6-fig person, I'm a 6-fig nig. It's like you're a 6-fig nig in California. That is not the same as it used to be when that term actually came out. Like 6 figures, you could be broke making 6 figures. I see it.
Yes. Yeah.
Being rich. That's why I don't use rich. I use wealthy. Wealthy means if I needed to get enough money to buy a yacht tomorrow, I could sell some property and buy that yacht. Wealthy is my children don't have to work by the time they need to work. They already can live off of what I've already did. Wealthy is I don't have to go to a bank for a loan. I can call Greg that I went to school with, and we'll go in business together, and I'll give him a percentage, and I don't have to go through main corporations. That's wealthy. And wealthy is also being very healthy within yourself to know that you're not worried about what middle class people are worried about. If you wanted to predominantly shop somewhere at like Whole Foods or Sprouts, or only eat 4-star restaurant food and have your food delivered, you can do that. But a lot of people might work really, really hard and make 6 figures, but their health is shit. So by the time they need to retire, they're not going to be alive to enjoy life.
Yep.
So
That is so spot on.
The perspective of what is wealthy is different for everybody.
Yeah. I'm glad that you outlined it that way too, because that's something that we struggle with, is like having the patience to be able to even experience the wealth or share the wealth. It's like, I got it, but and it's the fact that you said you have somebody that can share it with you and know that in time it's going to duplicate. In time, you're going to actually really be able to enjoy it. I think we need to have more conversations, and when we talk about wealth that way, which, I don't know if we're going to have one of those, but I know you talk about stuff like this in your podcast. So, and then so I just want to just say really quickly too, I want to shout out to Butch, because Butch is the one who had this stereo etiquette conversation yesterday. That's the boo. Hey, Kevin. I'm surprised that you're actually able to listen. I'm glad you're listening. I don't know. He's driving Lyft right now, so I don't know if people are gonna. I don't know if this topic's gonna be touchy. So just get ready for that. But he left. He was like, maybe he got a ride right now. But yeah, he's driving Lyft right now. So I was thinking about that. I was like, dang it, I don't know what's gonna happen if you're listening, but just be aware that.
Can I do a disclaimer?
Yes.
Okay, disclaimer. We are not for people having abortions, and we are not for people must have abortions. We're for whatever your decision is that's going to be suitable for your situation or your life. And Eruth and I we had a conversation about this. I want to say it was a 2-parter because it was so long.
Yeah.
That my thing this week with everybody talking about this is stop acting like in the United States there's not other more important issues that we have had for decades that should be at the forefront, and abortions ain't it.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's really
and
not.
I really feel like it's at a point of it just being a distraction to distract people and make them talk about something else because there's other issues. Why isn't it preventative? What is the main factor of people leading up to thinking I need to get an abortion? What are the living conditions of people like for them to be like, I need to get this abortion?
Yeah.
Could it be their education? Could it be their lack of support? Could it be the fact that they're working 3 jobs and still can't afford their lifestyle? Why does a person in the United States have to work 3 jobs to be able to put food on their table and pay their bills? That's a problem.
Yeah. It's definitely a problem that it is such a problem that when you think about when you pass by, like I live by a Planned Parenthood. I didn't know I lived by Planned Parenthood until I seen the man standing on this. It was one singular man standing with the sign. And I'm like, okay, if this was that big of an issue, not to say that people don't care about it, but if it was such an epidemic, why is it just this one man? And every time you go by a Planned Parenthood, it's like 2 or 3 people, 4 people, maybe 5 people that are out there, very passionate people. They really care about what they care about, but they also are missing a whole, like you just said, a whole big problem that's happening to children, and that's abuse, child abuse. And the reason why this topic is so important, and why I have hashtag Whisper, because everybody knows like white supremacy purging in progress, and how it's tied to this discussion. I feel like everything that we're dealing with in terms of the distractions start with white supremacy. It's such a distraction. We can't get to actually every community dealing with child abuse, every community dealing with child sexual abuse, every community dealing with domestic violence. Like this is something that happens in all communities. And so for me, when I think about like white dominance, I think it always was meant in the terms of abortion conversation. It's always meant to maintain a white population, even if it has errors by way of the human condition where people abuse and people think, well, if there's abuse and people are suffering, that's just a part of life. And that's not a part of it. Doesn't have to be a part of life. It is avoidable. So we're going to talk a little bit about that.
That's why so many people today are in love with the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to struggle in order to be a good person or to be worthy of getting something good. There's too many people in love with the struggle, and that's why we have a lot of the generation who are now able to have kids who were raised by parents who had to struggle. Now they become parents, and it's like as soon as you turn 18, you on your own.
Yep.
That should not be the case. Why are you recreating a struggle for your child when they can stay with you and leave on a better footing? So it's all of that.
Yeah. And we have one more in the chamber. I'm gonna press play.
Shit, hell yeah, you can be broke making 6 figures. Shit, let gas prices keep going up. You could be putting 6 figures in your goddamn gas tank.
Yep.
You could be spending 6 figures to put groceries in your motherfucking house. Shit, the way shit going, just don't know.
It's true. That's what I feel like. I feel like some days I'm like, okay, let me do 30. Okay, I know I had to put 60 in here. Dang, how am I gonna work this out? There's some real decisions that have to be made.
Before this gas prices went up, the most I put in my car to fill it up was $17. Okay, I got a little SUV truck. Now, when I go to Costco, because I got a Costco card for my business, I get to pay a little bit lower in gas. So it's really like $25 to fill my tank. But I only go to the office like once a week, and that's about 30 minutes away from my house. And everything else is pretty close. So I'm not out in these streets. I'm in the house. But some people don't have that benefit like I do.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's crazy because even I work from home. Kevin works outside the house, but I drop all the kids to school and Kevin to work. We have our one car. If you know that one car struggle, it's a one car struggle. But it's a one car struggle. But I will say is that, that's when I realized, that's when it hit us, because before the kids were catching the bus for the most part. But my sister, all her kids, she drove her kids to school. So we just ended up doing it that way. But I'm like, dang, y'all won't ride this bus next year, okay? If the gas prices
I
keep
want
up
the
the way
girls
it
to get
is.
on a bus. Right now, the girls, they're virtual schools, so I don't even do that.
Yeah. And that is the plus. If anybody can get something virtual, it's always helpful. But then you also add the fact that, food prices going up and all these things tied to, some of the conditions that lead to child abuse, right? Like the fact that somebody can't
Yes.
afford gas prices, all the desperation. So we're going to talk more about that too.
Girl, there's so many things to talk about. Even
There
kids
is.
that are virtual school at the beginning, home with a child abuser.
Yes, that
Right?
it's
Sometimes
skyrocketing.
those kids, their only escape was going to school.
Yep. Well, that's where they're finding out now. As people are going back to school, they're starting to report like the what is it? The numbers vary. It's like 3 million to 4 million reports of where children are being referred to either by their teacher, by their medical professional, by a neighbor, by someone else in the community that sees a child. It's so hard because where I live, I mean, at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, sometimes I hear a child like crying, and I'm like, I look at my window. Yeah, I'm being nosy. And I'm like, what is going on outside? I'm trying to see what's going on. And it's like a 3 or 4 year old is outside with her mom, and she's screaming at this 3 or 4 year old. And I'm on watch. Like I watch my neighbor, like not because I'm trying to be nosy, but because we have to be aware. Because that is a part of the problem, is that we're not necessarily aware. We don't know what to do. How do you confront someone who is doing so, or how do you talk to someone to hopefully try to get enough information or get your eye on them so that we know what's going on. And in America, it's not like with our parents, right? Our parents, both of our parents are Jamaican, so we grew up in communities where I knew my parents knew all of our neighbors, and actually our neighborhood was very multicultural. There was like somebody from Peru, there was somebody from wherever. So my dad and my stepmom, they made it their business to know every one of their neighbors. We go to each other's houses. We had somebody that was Haitian that lived down the street. It's different now for whatever reason, because maybe there's a fear of this, our generation is like, mind your business. Like if you see me slap my child in the mouth, that's not your business.
Our generation is filled with the internet that's a click away and too much information of the negativity and not enough positivity to balance that out. So for me, I was telling my mom, like, when I was my oldest daughter's age, 8, I would leave the house at 9 a.m. and be outside until 6:30 and not see my mom. I probably come in to pee. If I know of a friend that I trust, I might go in their house to pee, and I'm going back outside. And my thing is, like, I don't even let the girls go to the mailbox, and I watch them from the house without me looking. Yeah. It's different times. I don't know the names of my neighbors on purpose, because I know how people act outside is not what they appear to be inside. And unfortunately, my children don't have the space to be like, can I go over such and such house? And they have kids, but I don't know how they treat their kids. I don't know how they talk to their kids. Yeah. I don't know how they deal with each other in the house. And who am I to be like, oh, you could go over there, but I'm going to stand over there and watch. That's crazy. So I'm just like, no, they can't come over and play. Sorry.
Yeah. My son asks me all the time too, Mommy, can my friend come over? I'm like, I don't know his mom yet, but when I do get a chance to meet his mom, maybe we could meet somewhere. Like it's just, even when you think about our parents, like you hear all these stories now of where kids are talking about what happened back in those days. And these were seemingly good situations. Like I said, my dad we knew all our neighbors, but we didn't really know what was going on in anybody's house behind closed doors. And now we look forward, we see that there was some things going on behind closed doors where there was physical abuse.
So many families who had their biological kids chained up in rooms, not feeding them. And on the outside of the house, it was, oh, they look like a good home. They have a dog. They have 2 cars. They have a nice house. We see them go in and out of the house. We see them go to church. But these people are doing things behind these doors, and I don't want any parts. So yeah, and sometimes I feel guilty about it. Am I holding my kids back from building these relationships with kids? But at the same time, it's kind of like people out here are too money hungry, and they'll disappear tomorrow. There'll be no record of their name. They was living so fraudulent that they don't exist. And now your kid is gone and you can't trace them to nobody. And I'm just to the point where, like, if a child comes over here and falls off the trampoline and then their family sue me, I don't want to deal with that. So no, you cannot come over.
Yeah.
No.
And it's funny that it's not a mainstream conversation to be had right now. That the abortion is the mainstream conversation. It's funny that abuse isn't. But I'm gonna pop some bubbles, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit more about getting into the. This is really like a 3-part conversation. To be honest with y'all, we're not gonna cover everything today, but at least I want to be able to cover sort of how we actually can see abuse every single day, and it's so clear. It's in our art. It's in music. It's in literature and books. It's in television. It's in film. But I'm going to play the messages, and we're going to jump into a little bit more of that.
Much love to the two beautiful queens on the panel. I hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. That is very true. I talked about this on one of my most recent shows about just like romanticizing the struggle, and like somehow you have to. We're told like you have to go through certain things in order to grow, instead of saying, "Hey, why don't you look at other people's issues and things that maybe they brought themselves in and grow from that?" You don't have to go through the trenches necessarily to establish yourself. I completely agree. It's a weird thing that we place on ourselves.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? I made it. I'm here. Hey, baby. That's my Chris, my Dave Chappelle. Hey, baby, what you doing out in the street? Yeah. I just had a picture of you doing that, Eruth. Hey, baby, what are you doing out in the street? It's late. Go to the house. What's up?
That's what my eyes say. Sometimes I'm like, I want them to see me look out this window. I want them.
You know, it's so crazy. I used to have a neighbor at my house in Atlanta, who had 7 kids ranging from 2 to 14 in one house, right? And all the time, I will randomly look outside and see her 2-year-old in diapers with no clothes on in the street.
Oh no,
Lord. I'm just like, what is going
on?
No. In this house of all these people, and they don't know their toddlers in the street. And I'm always letting them know, hey, the baby's outside. The baby's outside. And it's just like, my house is not that. And I'm just like, thank God.
My God. You know what's so funny? That happened to me before. I used to live in an apartment. It was a really big apartment complex. And I was driving home from work one night. It was probably like 7 o'clock, but it was dark outside. And this little boy was just outside. He probably was like 3. He couldn't even speak enough. Like, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, when I sent my kids to preschool, I sent them my kids to preschool when I knew they could say enough words. If they couldn't speak clearly, Kevin just stayed with them. So I was like, listen, we just need to wait. So I wanted them to know like 4 things. You know how to say vagina. You know how to say penis. You know how to say, butt. You know how to say mouth. Like things that people can touch and someone can say, oh, well, maybe he meant pee pee. You know, kids say things like pee pee, my poo poo. No. Mm-hmm. You say the words exactly what it is so that there's no misunderstanding about what it is. So it's funny as I'm driving through the neighborhood and I see this little boy sitting outside. He's like 3 years old. And I could have, maybe he was probably between 2 and 3. I could have picked him up. I could have put him in my car and I could have drove off with him. So I go and I'm like, what are you doing? I stop him. What are you doing outside? My mommy did, but my daddy and you can't speak. What? And I'm like, right. I said, take me to where you live. And he walked me to this. The door was open up a little bit, like ajar. And I'm like knocking on the door, and I'm like, hey, is this one yours? And she's like, oh yeah. My cousin, he's supposed to be watching him. They ain't out there.
Why you like me?
I was like, I don't know. I just know that there's a baby in these streets. And she was like, oh, yeah, let me bring him back in. And then like a few minutes later, the 2 cousins walk up and I'm like, y'all know that this child was out here. So the next day I am canvassing the house. I'm waiting outside. I'm trying to see who's coming out this house. And so I couldn't find whoever the parent was. Apparently the parent must have worked like overnight or something like that. So I just told the neighbor, I was like, listen, your neighbor's child is out here at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. Can you please tell them that they have the child? I don't know. I think the family was, I think they were Haitian. The Haitian parents don't play. So I know whoever was supposed to be responsible, somebody getting the elephant whip, because I know friends that have gotten beat by Haitian parents.
This is another thing for me. While I'm parenting, I feel like these jobs and how they want the hours for parents to be is a form of abuse.
Yeah.
Realistically, you drop your kid off probably around 7 a.m. for school, and they get out at 2 something. And unless you can afford an after-school care, you got to pick that child up by 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock at the latest. and every minute you're late after that is $1. Most places. Can you pay me enough to pay for my home, my utilities, putting groceries on the table, my emergencies, and for my child care? Yay or nay? And can I leave in order to pick up my child? Yay or nay? And the reality is you can't.
Right. And that's the conversations that the people who have the power should be having. Like it is an empty conversation. It is an empty campaign to just simply focus on women who are making choices to abort their children, while not focusing on women who are, or men who are in positions where they're struggling through all these things that you just talked about and are making desperate situations, and also responding to their own desperate situations that they grew up in, whether it was having an abusive mother or an abusive father or an abusive sibling who had another abusive parent. Like, it just goes so far. Like, it touches so far. But I'm gonna play some messages.
It's a bigger issue because a lot of people are having babies to be able to afford their lifestyle.
Yeah.
The more babies I have, the more money the government's gonna give me.
That part.
Some people are having babies or having unprotected sex with someone they don't even like in order to have a home.
That part.
Because they can't afford it by themselves.
Or taking on foster care kids, which we're gonna, if we get time to talk about, I have time to talk about this.
Because it comes with money, but
yes,
you didn't foster these kids to love them. You didn't foster these kids to guide them. And then most of the time, it's people who are into pedophilia that sell off and take pictures of these kids and sell them to people who are judges, lawyers, in politics.
Yeah,
they did a whole sweep last year of all of these people in political seats and judges and lawyers who've been selling off kid porn.
Yes. Oh, in Florida, they just had that. I think it was this year. I think in February, there was a bunch of Disney employees. And this is not to say this is related to the whole thing with the abortion, the gay thing, the don't say gay situation. But I will say this is that the number of judges, the people who worked at Disney, just regular employees, it was like a whole ring of people that were abusing children. And it just, every time I see these stories, I think about, okay, so in order for you to be a part of this type of abuse, because with abuse, what they say is that you're, I think, 3 to 4 times more likely, if you have grown up in a home with abuse, for you to be, for you to repeat it. And sometimes what happens, you see people say things like, if I seen somebody do that to a child, I'd kill that person. And that is definitely a valid reaction to someone abusing a child. But there's also another reaction, which is to ask the question like, wait a minute, how do we get to this point here? Like, how did 20 people, 20 men from different places, these are not all Americans. Some of these people were from like India. They were from, like, when I saw the racial makeup of the people, I was like, okay, this is a global problem. And what is happening across the board when it comes down to sexual abuse in any of these homes, no matter the country. And the fact that there's no politician who is actually really having a campaign to address real childhood abuse, or even the people who are that become the abusers, and have a plan for them, because you can't just throw them all in one place. We don't even know who all of them are, because most people don't even some people who are abusive don't even get reported. Family members, family friends, we're gonna work something out within the family. Everybody know, just don't go by Uncle George. Like, that is not a solution.
And I'm so happy that we are not that generation anymore who keeps secret or doesn't address the elephant in the room. I'm gonna say whatever I need to say now, and I'm gonna let you know to your face.
Yes.
If I see you in walking distance, I don't even want you to see pictures of my children. I don't want my children to even know your name. It's going to be a wrap for you. I'm not going to go into details because it's not going to be needed.
Yeah, it's a problem. And I do wonder, I'm very suspicious of the fact that we don't have people who have power. Even when you see the Democrats talk about abortion, they don't have a plan to say, at least a counter plan to say, wait a minute, you're concerned about abortion, let's be concerned about child abuse. Like, that's not even a question. But I'm going to play the message and we're going to jump back in there.
Yeah.
I'm also sort of jealous of how families used to be. I know you both said you're from Jamaican descent. I'm just plain old African American, and I feel like my parents, cousins grew up like siblings. Now, like, if I had kids and my sisters had kids, like, they wouldn't even really know each other. Like, there are certain siblings I'm not even super close to. You know, like, I wish I had that tight cousin relationship. And now I feel like when you raise a kid, it's just you and your household. It's not your neighbors. It's not your family as much as it used to. It's definitely not extended family. So it seems kind of lonely.
Oh, well, there is a secret in that though too, because so even within my family, like on my mother's side, I just learned this, that I have like 4 uncles, and I have an aunt that I didn't know about, and then there's another aunt who had passed away. This is on my mother's side. On my father's side, he has like 7 or 8 brothers and sisters, and we know some of them, but we don't know everybody. So it's I think maybe the larger the family it is, I shouldn't say it's kind of general, because there are large families that are really close, but even within my family, generationally, there's a whole family saga about this family member not talking to that family member. We don't talk to them, and then their last name spelled differently because they're the bad ones, and all this stuff. There's a whole bunch of drama. So I know with me though, I want to be the first one to break that. I don't want my children I don't want to do what my parents and their parents did before them, how they navigated around the family and secrets and all that other stuff. To Shan's point, like, I'm not about that secrecy stuff. When I get to other family members' house, we talk about, listen, everybody knows we don't do no inappropriate touching. I know y'all don't want anybody to talk about it. I know it's uncomfortable. Listen, I grew up in it, and I refuse for us to look up, to be so naive to believe that these things probably can't happen and not talk about them from the jump, from when we get up to the door.
And you don't have to be nasty or rude about it. You be real about it. And a lot of times people feel like, back in the day was better because our families were so close and there was so many of us. Sometimes that was worse because there's so many loopholes of where your child could be or who your child could be around. Whereas you think just because that's your brother or your sister, that wouldn't be happening. No, let's not forget that these people are people first. And by default, they're related to you. But what are their intentions? And so now I feel like the relationships I have with people, or the people that I allow to be in my children's lives, I know what their intentions are. And it's like I have a more transparent view of who these people are and what the come and go is like. Whereas, back in the day, your parents probably drop you off at your cousin's house and come pick you up in 3 days, and they don't know what happened.
Yep. And they don't even call the whole time they're there. They're like,
No.
I trust it.
They know what they hit you with that. I'll be right back. I just go to the store for 3 days.
Right? By day 2, you like, this cousin's making me feel uncomfortable. So where's everybody else at? No, y'all just go back in the room and go play.
Listen, you know what happened in those games? Like,
there was a lot of things happening in those rooms. I have stories to tell, and I don't know if the adults want to hear about it, because the ones that the information that they did get so far, they were just like, oh, okay, well, let me call your box. Let me reach your box.
Listen.
Oh, you gotta call me back to that? You want to hear?
And that's why my phone is dry, Eruth. I like my phone dry. I have aunts that I haven't seen in years. I have uncles. Well, not uncles. Most of my uncles now are deceased, but like cousins I haven't seen in years. If I pass their kids, they're probably taller than me. But the ease of being able to take off work and go by this person's house, or I'm coming up there for the weekend, it's $900 from a ticket from Georgia to Texas right now. Like and that is a part of why people don't want to have kids right now, because they can't afford what it takes to have a village. Yes. Your village today is irresponsible for you to think the neighbor across the street that you don't know is going to do right by your children. The neighbor across the street probably hates my kids because their skin is brown.
Talk about it.
And that's the reality, is we don't have the village that we need. Our parents are not living anymore. Our aunts and uncles who are supposed to help us have all of these sicknesses where I'm scared to leave my child here because you might forget to take your diabetic medicine and you just on the floor and my kid ain't here until I get back. Like, there's so many factors on why people are not having kids right now. And it's not because they just love abortion. Ooh, girl, I can't wait. This weekend I'm just going to top my legs up and get me an abortion. Then I'm gonna go get me some ice cream. It's not that. And what I'm really irritated by, Eruth, is all of these quiet men who have paid for multiple abortions in order to have the mental peace that they have and audacity to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to Miami this weekend, or it's this weekend, and I'ma chill and I ain't worry about being no baby daddy because ain't no woman about to get me caught up. Because you been sending that money cash out.
Yep. Yep. And that's another.
Are you? They got Plan B pills sitting in their house ready.
Yeah. And that's another part of the abusive conversation that nobody talks about too, because there are statistics about the abuse between men and women, and the numbers of where 24% of men experience sexual violence. Now those men, it's a tragedy that happens. It's absolutely a tragedy because they're not getting the attention that they need, but they're not also able to get pregnant. Right. So all the opposite of that, where you have like 84% or something of women who are raped by the time that they're like in their 20s. I think I want to say that's right. I'll go back and double check. I'm sorry. The number is really high though. When you look at the comparison, it's like 60% difference between the men and women of who had sexual violence that they've experienced. They're not talking about the fact that, yes, this happens to men, but when it happens to women, and the fact that even with rapes, it's like underreported. We don't even know exactly how many of these percentage of women who are having these abortions are due to rape. And some people will say this, like, you know what? I know everybody that's having an abortion is not related to rape. But in a lot of the statistics, one thing that it talks about is that between like 11, like adolescents, which the numbers are anywhere between 15 to 17 years old or 10 to 24 years old, that the percentages of adolescents that make up abortions is like 12%. Like that, for that age group, that's a lot.
I'm starting to hate statistics because it's almost racist. Right now in Philadelphia, if a woman found out she was pregnant and wanted the government to pay for that abortion so she didn't have to pay out of pocket, all she has to tell them is, I was raped or it was incest, and they pay for it. There's no proof. Not saying there needs to be proof, but that's all that needs to be said. And there is somebody taking in the numbers of women calling in and saying this is happening, when logically it could not be happening. Income wise, these women cannot afford another child in their household, which is why they're saying this, to not have to pay for this. So there's always a reason behind these numbers.
That's true. I mean, that is a factor. They do mention that like 2 to 10% of the rapes that are reported are false, that they find them to be false. But we do have to keep in mind that I'm not trying to go in depth about the Me Too movement because it has its problems too. It started off with trying to be really legit about some problems that need to be addressed, like the silence of violence and all that type of stuff, marital rape, all that kind of stuff, where when they look at the numbers of women that do have abortions, some of them have already had a child, so they don't want to be, they don't want to bring in another child. And then you have to think about the fact that when we're talking about child abuse, we're talking about abuse or domestic abuse or any violence. Just the idea of bringing a child into a world where the chances of not necessarily somebody else committing violence against the child, but you potentially committing violence against the child because you don't have all these other mechanisms in place to help you, like you talked about earlier, having some access to childcare. Like it would be help so many mothers if they had a break, right? Like I'm not saying it's okay for someone to black out and lash out on their child, but there's a mental health factor and component that's not being addressed. So if a woman is making a decision to say, I'm betting against myself that, or I'm betting on myself that I have the potential to not be able to have the capacity to manage raising children. Because every day when this child says something, I'll be saying, I'm gonna slap the hell out of you. If you're saying that every day, every day.
Let me tell you something. I knew mentally and financially, there's no way I would be able to handle the love for 3 children. And I'm not saying that because I don't want to love a third kid. I have 2. I'm saying I don't know how to stretch myself anymore to provide equally amongst 3 children, 2 is enough. And I had to say that for myself. And I had to be comfortable with saying that for myself because I really wanted a boy. And that boy didn't happen. And then I was like, no, I'm done. Because if I have a third girl, they're going to have to put me in the loony bin. Okay?
That's real.
It's
That's
too
real.
much because they need so much from you all the time. And I'm just like, I just feel stretched and I can't do it. And I'm not saying, well, maybe what happened if you have a third kid with somebody who's really supportive like you never had? I have no faith in that gamble and I'm not taking it. And I think a lot of women psych themselves out where they keep having kids and they get more bitter and more bitter and more bitter. And they start to resent the children that they have. And it's not the kid's fault. They didn't ask to be here. You made a decision to follow through. And so for me, I tap myself on the back every time. Every time I see somebody with, oh, they got 3 girls. Oh, they got 4 kids. Oh, this girl can't be more than 17 pushing 4 kids in the stroller and trying to make it across the street before this light turn green. I'm just like, that girl chose, that girl did that. I did that. I knew when I was supposed to stop. And it's very responsible of you to know when you need to stop.
Yeah. And I think there's not enough conversation about letting girls know or women know that, listen, this is not a path that you have to take in terms of, I'm not saying promiscuity because I don't want to say that because that's not really fair, but there's an equal balance of responsibility for the men as there is for the women. So
if you like what you've heard thus far, because it does get better, check out Eruth on Stereo app. Download the Stereo app. It's free. Make a little avatar thing. Check out Eruth, Eruth. That's her name on there. And you can also find the show at She Gets It Pod on Stereo app. Ta-ta! I will post the next show. Just a snippet. Because this was like 2 hours. But anyway, enjoy your day. Bye.